Okay, so we'll continue on. Halacha Niddah Siman Kufay Zayin. I'm going to review some of the points that we covered last time in Sif Hey, dealing with a woman who possibly has a makkah, has some sort of injury in her, or some illness in her body, in the area of the uterus, somewhere around there. And of course this is a concern. Besides the health concerns, it is a concern because we want to figure out if the dam that she's seeing, shelo b'sha'as haves, not during her regular time of seeing, is dam coming from the same makor, or is the dam coming from a makkah? And apparently it will make a world of a difference if she's going to be clean or not. That's one difference. The second difference is that the Siman, we started off with the whole subject of roya machmas tashmish, that this could be even a bigger concern. Sees herself after being intimate, after having a relationship. If that's the case, if this happens several times, there's a big problem there. So what we wanted to see is if there is anything that can help us in the process of elimination to determine that this is not something that she has to be so concerned about, because this is possibly just an early veset. It's not damach mastashmish. And that would save the day. And that could happen. And as we've explained, and we'll see it more often later on, that there are times that a woman could, during the month, even though it's not her veset, for all kinds of reasons. Whether it took a flight, it was fright, it was excitement, major exercise, and so forth. And the problem is that when it's machmas tashmish itself, and it repeats itself several times, then it's always going to happen while she's with her husband, and that's of course a problem. If this were to happen at other times, okay, then she has to be concerned with that particular exercise or that particular cause that triggers the dam. But if it's machmas tashmish, then how do you eliminate that? Well, of course, there's ways to check for that, and we saw a little bit of the way to check with shveiferes, with a tube, with perhaps a second or third husband. Well, not everybody wants to go through that. Imagine. According to the din of the Torah, if a woman gets married to a second man, she can never go back to her first husband. If she got divorced and she changed her mind, as long as her husband is not a kohen, they can get married again. It's actually a mitzvah to get back together. But once she's gone out with another man, she's gotten married to another man, officially married, then even though she changed her mind now, she doesn't like the second guy or third guy or whatever, she can't go back to the first one. So it is a very, very sensitive area, this area of roya machmas tashmish, or even something slightly different, a woman that is always having a hard time becoming, which we'll talk about later on. What if she's always bleeding? It has nothing to do with roya machmas tashmish. She's just bleeding. Imagine she's beginning her shiva nekiyim now. She's done the hefsek tahara after her period is finished. She's no longer seeing blood. And now she has to be 7 clean, spotless days. And what if they're not spotless? What if she's always bleeding? What if she's always spotting? So these are shilas that are asked. These are shilas that the Rabbanim who deal with this all the time, they get this kind of, she's bleeding because of medication she's taking, for all kinds of reasons. Is there a way for her to be with her husband? Is there a way for her to be able to finally go to the mikveh, to the tevilah, after waiting the required amount of days, but not being completely spotless? And there are ways. When we get to that, on the difference between white and colored underwear can make a big difference. And it will make a difference if it's a ketem or if it's really bleeding. That of course is. But now at least we're differentiating between blood, if it's coming from a makkah or not, because that is going to make a world of a difference. If somehow we can determine that she does have a bruise, and the blood is coming from the bruise, that helps. That helps a world. Even if it's a makkah b'makor. Now the makor, as we said, is very, very sensitive, because how are you going to know if it's from the makor, that it's the makkah from the makor, it's not dam niddah, as it is dam makor in itself is a big machlokes, whether it's metame or not, mokom or the makor is tame or not. But we differentiate between taharas, which we don't have to deal with today, and husband and wife relationship. So technically speaking, if the dam were to come from a makkah in the makor, and we knew 100% that it's from a makkah, it would still be okay. Just one can never be 100% sure about that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about nemanas today. Can we trust the doctors? What kind of a doctor? Can we trust the woman if she says, I just know where it's coming from? We'll be talking about that too. So nemanas is part of it. How do we know? Plus, today, we do have tools that they didn't have back then. So does that make any difference? And on that there's tshuvas too. How do we know that the halacha changes as a result of a better, more thorough exam today than back then when what they were capable of knowing and seeing? Okay, so we began to say that ultimately it is possible for a woman to be seeing blood as a result of something other than her period. And that makkah that she has could be almost anywhere. And because it could be anywhere, it presents a problem if she in fact sees blood not during the time of her veset, and she cannot of course attribute it to the veset, but she's not 100% sure if the makkah that she has produces blood or not. In other words, so there's several questions here that we have to iron out. Okay, there is a makkah. How do you know there's a makkah? It's painful? Or did you touch it there? You felt the blood? Are you feeling something running through your body from another spot? What is it exactly that's going on? So these are some of the questions that the Poskim, the Rishonim, the Achronim dealt with in trying to come up with the halacha. Yes, makkah is true. The makkah can help us, but how do we know that there's a makkah? Now, does it make a difference if she have a veset kavua or not? Because if she doesn't have a veset kavua, there's a good chance this is her veset. It's not a makkah. And then what? What if it is a veset? Well, if it's going to be a veset, then of course she's going to be unclean. So we really have two questions here at all times. The question whether she's clean or unclean, and can she continue to be with her husband? Because there is a havamina, there is a possibility that even though we may be lenient with her continuing to be with her husband, maybe she still has to go to the mikvah. Maybe she still has to wait against Shiva and Nekim and go to the tefillah. So these are some of the issues that we discussed. So in Sif Hey, the Mechaber just told us, and he was a little vague, and he passes like the Rashba, pretty much. That's what is apparent. That in Yesh Makkah Boiso Mokom, if there is a Makkah in that place, the Toilim Bedam Makoso. All he says is, I don't know if the dam is coming out. He doesn't say about is dam coming out or not. I don't know. I know there's a makkah there. You can attribute the dam coming from the makkah. And then he adds, but if the dam makoso meshuna medam riyoso ain't told with dam makoso. All right, fine. That's the halacha. That you know for sure that the bloods look very differently, then of course you would have to be able to see which blood it is. If you don't, then it's your fault. But today we don't really distinguish between blood and blood. We see blood, it's just blood, it's the same. Just that theoretically, if there would be a difference, then of course you would have to know the difference. So from the Mechaber, we don't have an indication so much as to how he holds from the various shitas of whether does it make a difference if she has a veset kavua, she not have a veset. Because a woman that has a veset kavua is a big advantage. She's not supposed to be seeing blood now from her makor. Dama, this is not Dama Niddah, good chance that it's not. So it's a big plus. And that is where the Ramah comes in and starts making various chilukim. It all depends. So it all depends. Vesa kavua, vesa shena kavua. Is blood coming out of the makkah? Not coming out of the makkah? What if I know it's a makkah that produces blood, but I just don't know if this time the blood is coming from the makkah or not? So that's where the Ramah comes in. But from the Mechaber, it just seems like it goes like the shita of the Rashba that makes it very simple. Makkah, whether blood is coming out or not, doesn't make a difference. From the makkah, I don't know. Do I have to know? The Shach says you have to know at least that this makkah produces blood. But from the Mechaber, it's not clear. All right, so now let's review again the Ramah. So the Ramah makes three chilukim, discusses three dinim. That as far as the makkah is concerned, kol ze be'isha sheyesh lo veset kavua. Ramah wants to paskin, and again there's various shitas here, who holds somewhat different, and the Ramah pretty much, you could say, takes part of what one Shita says and part of the other Shita says, because he goes along with it. In other words, he goes along with the Shita that says, yes, you don't have to know that there is a makkah producing blood here. That part, that halacha of not knowing, just knowing that there is a makkah, that's good if this Isha has a Vesed Kavua. So I'll grant it, the Ramah says. Yes, I'll go along with that Shita, but I'll add a Chumrah. And what's that Chumrah? And that is, this woman has a Vesed Kavua, because then there's another tzad. I have here another side that can enable me to depend on and rely on that this is, in fact, good chance that it's a makkah and it's not something else. So כל זה באישה שיש לו וסת כבוב, ואז יכולים לתלות שלא בשעת וסתה במכתה, אף על פי שאינה יודעת בוודאי שמכתה מוציא אדם. So this is, he makes it very clear, even though in this one example, let's call it halacha number 1 or detail number 1 in the Ramah, even though he doesn't know if this blood's coming from the makkah. I don't know, but I know for sure there's a makkah there, that's a fact. And she has a Vesed Kavua, great. You have a Vesed Kavua, perfect. That's when it works. So this din that in Sif Hey, whether you're talking about royal machmas tashmish or you're talking about just being with her husband, it makes no difference. The Ramah would require for a one suffix situation, is it a makkah? Perhaps there's a makkah because she does have a makkah, or is it not? I require a Vesed Kavua. Since it's not the Shas Vesed, the Niddah Yehuda explains here, since it's not her Shas Vesed, dam is not very common to be seen, so it's a good suffix. It calls it a suffix, a shokul, that it could have been from the makkah. And she has a cheskas tahara. She's clean right now. She has a chazaka. So therefore, that would save the day. Vesed Kavua. The Shach, however, says that even though this is the halacha, I go along with it, I understand, Vesed Kavua, we're toilet in the makkah, yes, but that's only as far as royal machmas tashmish. We're going to be lenient with this couple, that what she saw right now was not machmas tashmish, because yes, indeed, it could be because of some bruise. However, she would still be required to go to the mikveh. That's what the Shach holds. Not everybody seems to with the Shach. As we will see, there's quite a bit of a machlokes here, depending on the circumstances. If we know for sure that this makkah produces blood, I think more poskim would agree that she doesn't have to go to mikveh. We don't make her go just because she's seen blood from the makkah. It's only that we have a doubt if this blood is coming from the makkah or not. So okay, it's not machmas tashmish. At least the couple stays together. But does she have to go to the mikveh? The Shach says yes. Others say, why are you splitting the din in half? If she's clean, she's clean. If she's tmeya for both. I saw that argument too. But the Shach says, I think others have said too, that we were lenient. We were extra lenient because of iguna here. We didn't want this woman to be stuck, to be in this kind of a predicament. Alright, so far halacha number 1 deals with makkah. We don't know if it produces blood, but she has a Vesed Kavua. And of course, that is a good suffix. Maybe it's machmas. The only question is, do we make her go to the mikveh or not? Okay. Shach says that it's not a good enough suffix not to let her go to the mikveh. Unless you know for sure that the makkah, what's your dam. In the Niddah Yehuda, I believe I remember seeing that Niddah Yehuda says we would go ahead and believe the Shiva Nekim as well. Even though you don't know for sure there's blood. If you know there's a makkah, then it's possible from the makkah. I did see that the majority of Achronim, however, are machmer like the Shach in this case. When you don't know if there's blood, they are machmer like the Shach. So we would tell this woman, listen, it's not machmas tashmish, but you saw blood. You have to wait again and go to the mikveh at the end. In this case, when we don't know for sure that this makkah produces blood. So as we said last time, today we have this advantage of checking this out with the doctor. There's another question, halacha, however, can we trust a non-Jewish doctor? And can we trust a Jew that is not a Shomer Shabbos? Because they're almost equal. Not a Shomer Shabbos, Mechal Shabbos befahes publicly. There's a problem of nemanis in that. So they would all pretty much be the same. If you don't trust him, you don't trust the other either. What if you don't know if there's a makkah at all? Can you say, well, there may be a makkah? No, that you can't do. In other words, there could be a bruise there, but this is a scratch. This is not a makkah that produces blood. Oh, I don't know for sure that there is a makkah. Then you just can't make up a story that, you know what, there could be a makkah there. No, that's not enough to be makel, to be in it. There has to be grounds, a good possibility that the dam is coming from there. Now, the Pischei Tshuva over here adds a very important point. It's good to know this point. When we talk about Vesatot later on again, that there's women who are regular, some women who are irregular. What does regular mean? Even though regular usually means a particular day, there is something called semi-regular. In other words, she never gets her period before the 25th day from last time. After the 25th days have elapsed from her past period, it could be on the 26th, on the 27th, on the 28th. We call that a semi-regular period. So guess what? For this halacha, it would be a veset kavua up until the 25th. You follow me? In other words, even though she doesn't have a real veset kavua, but she does have a veset kavua until the 25th. So as far as this halacha is concerned, that would be the case. That up until the 25th, this halacha would apply exactly like the Mechaber and like the Ramah says, that if there is a makkah, and she has a veset kavua up until the 25th, so if she saw this blood on the 22nd day, she can attribute it to the makkah, even though she's not sure if blood comes out of this makkah. According to the Ramah. The second din of the Ramah was in a situation where she doesn't have a veset kavua. So the Ramah says, when she doesn't have a veset kavua, but there is another suffix. There's a svek, he says. There's a suffix if the dam comes from the makor or min hatzdadim. There's a suffix if the blood came from the source, from the uterus, from the womb, or if it came from the sides, the walls. Talina b'maka, we attribute it to the maka mikoch sfek sfeika. There's a classic sfek sfeika here, he said. Suffix min hatzdadim when a makor. We have a doubt whether it's tzdadim the sides of the makor. V'intim tzedam, maybe you're going to tell me it's from the makor. So what? Shemahu min Makkah. Just because it came from the makor doesn't mean it's dam niddah. It could be from a makkah in the makor. Okay, so you have two sveikas. So whenever the Ramah says when you have two sveikas like that, you have a suffix whether it came from the tzdadim. You're not for sure. This dam is not necessarily coming from the makor. There's a real suffix. It may have come from the sides, the walls. So it could be that this is bichlal, not a problem. And even if you tell me, no, it's for sure coming from the makor, it could still be from the makkah. So you see, safek min hatzdadim min the makor. And even if you tell me it's from the makor, which is a more delicate area, it could be from a makkah in the makor, because this is, she's not expecting it now. So even though it's not a veset kavua, and it could be her, it could be the veset, still, there is reason enough to believe that it could also be from the makkah, and therefore, because of the sfek sfeika, she's saved. In other words, she's in a much better situation, even though it's a vesa sheino kavua. We have a sfek sfeika here. Now, this sfek sfeika opens up a little bit of a Pandora box, I call it, because the shach, who is the big master of sfek sfeika, remember, says this is not a good sfek sfeika. This is not a sfeiko hamitapech, if you remember that it has to be that you can see the suffix from both sides. He says, this one, it's only really one suffix. Is this dam niddah or dam makkah? Don't make me two sfeikas here. So there's a little bit of a write-up. There's several tshuvas, achronim discussing this sfek sfeika, and they all seem to be saying that the Ramah has good reason to say this is a sfek sfeika nonetheless. It could be against the shach. In other words, it could still be a good suffix, because after all, there is reasonable doubt, as they say, either way. And it's not really just one suffix. Okay, I'm not going to get into that too much right now, but I thought it was interesting that the shach seems to be saying that this is not a real sfek sfeika, and I wouldn't just rely on that. That's what he says. This is not a good one. And actually, I think the shach, besides the shach, the gro and the chazon ish go along with that. The sfek sfeika is not strong enough. That's what they say. It's not a sfek sfeika me'alio. It's not a good one. All right. There's another question asked under Ramah over here. Is it why even suggest that this makkah is from the tzdadim? In Melicha Teisa, they say, why should you suggest and make a suffix that this is from the tzdadim? Based on what? So some say because we actually don't know. We don't really know where this makkah is. We know there's some sort of makkah there. We don't really know if it's in the makor or not. It's a real suffix. You know, obviously, if you knew the makkah was in the makor area, then you wouldn't just say, well, you know what, there is a possibility it's from the tzdadim too. No, that you don't say. But if we honestly don't know where it is, then of course, there is a possibility sometimes the dam is coming from the tzdadim because of the way it rubbed there. And imagine also with a yoledes, I'll see later on, a woman that gave birth. It could be that there's scratches there, there's all kinds of things in that. So there is in a yoledet, there's even more reason to believe that there's a bruise over there. So depending on the situation, it is a good suffix. It's not. We're not just making up this possibility. The Torah Shloimim writes something else here. He says that the reason that we're considering this suffix is because we're talking about a woman that saw during the time of Tashmish. Since during the time of Tashmish, usually it's not her veset, it's not, or one does not ordinarily see dam from the makor. That's the reason why we are safe to assume that it's coming from somewhere else. In other words, it's a reasonable suffix to assume that it's something else because that's not the usual for the dam to come from the makor during the time of Tashmish. Why should it? It could be that somehow, because of the physics or the biology, whatever you want to call it, of what's involved, the man and the woman, that causes the bruise. Why think so much that it's from the makor when it could easily, possibly be because of the interaction between the two of them from the sides? So anyway, so we mentioned that the shach is not, he disagrees with this sfek sfeika. He thinks it's really one suffix, it's not a good sfek sfeika, fine. Now, all the Ramah told us over here is that if she does not have a vesed kavua, and if it's a suffix, if the dam is coming from the makor or from the tzdadim, it could have been from the side, then we can be toileted on the makkah nonetheless, because of the sfek sfeika. Now comes the third din. If we know for sure it's from the makor, in other words, we're already missing that one suffix, and she has no vesed kavua, then she can only be toile Elim Kin Yodad Bevada Shemakosom Utzio Dam. Then the third halacha is that yes, she does not have a vesed kavua. She knows for sure the makkah is in the makor, so there's no sfek sfeika. Still, this makkah produces blood. Here she knows that this makkah produces. So here, this is what the Ramah makes a requirement for this scenario is, here I have to know that the makkah produces, because the makkah is in the makor. Well, so what if the makkah is in the makor? You want to blame the makkah? Maybe it's real dam. No, I know this makkah produces blood. Oh, that's different. If this makkah is known to produce blood, then there's a good chance that this is the makkah then. All right. Then, again, what we're doing here is we're saving the woman from having a problem of roya machmas tashmish, of course. Plus, there's a question of whether she needs to go to the mikveh or not. So on that we said that if we know for sure the makkah produces blood, then there's no need for her to go there, supposedly. But it would have to be for sure. Otherwise, we have others who say that she still has to go to the mikveh. But if the makkah produces blood, and there's a good chance that this came from the makkah, of course, then there's no reason for her to go to the mikveh, especially if she has a vesed kavua. Why make her go to the mikveh again? Just because she saw blood, it's the dam of makkah. So these are important halachas to know, important differences, because a ketem in itself, even though a ketem, as we will see later, stains are midirabanan, in many ways we're lenient with stains, we're also machmir, that she has to go. If it's deemed to be a kesem tomeh, it's big enough, it has the right colors, it's in the right spot, for a kesem that makes her tmeya, then she's going to end up going to the mikveh just like if she had a regular period. Whereas here, it's coming from a makkah. which of course we will see when you associate ksamim with makkah, you're even going to be even more lenient. Because with ksamim, anything that we can attribute it to. She was walking through the fish market. She went into a butcher, and she somehow got stained. With ksamim, we look for any possibility that she got it from elsewhere. We do that. And the same it will be with makkah. When it comes to ksamim as a result of a makkah, it's even better. Because if we know she has bruises all over the place, then that's going to be easy for the one who evaluates her situation. Her ketem says, yeah, but you have a makkah, right? Yeah. So that will solve a lot of problems. It will eliminate a lot of doubts if she has a makkah. All right. Before we go on, what is considered a makkah that motzi adam? How do you know a makkah is producing blood? What will determine to our satisfaction that a makkah produces blood? So this I gathered from various tshuvas, various poskim. The Forshim will speak about what is a makkah that produces blood. What is the criteria? If a doctor or a nurse who are shomer Torah mitzvahs saw the makkah and saw that it has blood, that's one possibility. Second possibility, that a doctor says that this kind of illness or disease that she has, a particular disease that she has, could easily bring about this blood. In other words, she has something in that area. She has a skin rash of some sort that is known to produce blood. Then that's fine. It's known that what she has produces blood. That's also makkah shemotziyot. The Taz brings down, interestingly, he says that even if we don't know about what she has, but we know that other women who have this makkah, they have had blood from it, that's also good. Now, well, she has something that others who have had it, we know for sure they have had blood as a result. So we're basing what she has based on what others have had. We're going to see that. We're going to see that soon. That's going to be one of the next topics. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, and as far as the stains, in stains, as we're going to see in the Ramah, maybe we should read it inside the Ramah again. That's where we left off last time, that I wanted to clarify a little bit more this time. ומכל מקום בשעס וסטו, או מלמד יום ללמד יום, אינו טוילה במקוסו. You know, this is the point where we left off last time, that if it's during the time of her veset, or if it's the oina beinanis, in other words, it's every 30 days, then she does not attribute the blood that she is seeing to her makkah. What is she going to attribute it to? To her veset. So what does it mean? What it means is that she has to go to the mikveh. That's all it means. That's the main point that the Ramah is trying to say, is that since you're not going to attribute it to the makkah, it's unclean. Blood, that's all it is. Did I make myself clear? Ilan? Yeah. In other words, that's the big difference between what it is. Is it the veset or is it the makkah? Whether she's going to be clean or not. With all regard here, not necessarily to the point of machmas tashmish over here. In other words, once we're close to the veset, she's unclean. The imlo kain, he says, lo titameh le'olam. She will never be unclean. If you go, this is always the makkah. Then when is she going to be unclean? If this is close enough to the veset, then we say this could be the veset. Then what? Then she has to go to the mikveh. That's what. In other words, without regard to the other halachas of roi machmas tashmish or not, the fact that this is close enough to the veset means that this is not a makkah. If it's not a makkah, that means she's unclean. So it's not necessarily that he's trying to point out how this will affect royal machmas tashmish. There's nothing to do with that. It has to do more with whether she's clean or not. If she's close enough to the veset, then she's unclean. That's the point. As we said before, with stains she can always be toilet on the makkah at all times. Good news. With stains, because we're lenient as it is with stains, even if it's close enough to the veset, it's all it is a stain. We can say it's good chances from the makkah, even though the veset is coming up. With stains, toilin bo b'chol inyan, at all times in every way. Good. That's very important halacha. In the Shach, I think, was it the Shach or the Taz? No, the Shach. The Shach says here, Afilu b'shas vesta, even during the time of the vesta, Afilu in Yudat shemakoso dakol otzida, even if she doesn't know her makkah really produces blood or not, came mashma divra poiskim, that you can be lenient with stains. With stains, you can be lenient. She has a makkah, yes, it's most likely, it's possibly her makkah, and she doesn't have to worry about it. It's stain. We will see when we talk about stains. Stains is midrabanan. She's not feeling dam going through her, right? It's not even though here you're saying Afilu b'shas vesta, still. It has it's in a different category, stains versus real dam that she sees during the regular time, the period time. All right. Now, what's interesting, I did see, this is already covered more in Siman Kuf Tzadik Vov, what I'm going to tell you now, but I'd rather mention it right now because it's just a little bit related to what we're learning. There's a little bit of a machlokes as to a woman that sees stains, what happens during her Shiva Nekiyim. She has a makkah. So in the Rashba and in Beis Yosef also, it's mashma that even during the spheres of the Shiva Neki, which are supposed to be complete, the woman has, let's say, blood for 4 or 5 days. She does hefsek tahara, she's clean, the blood stopped, now she counts 7 clean days completely, and after that she goes to the mikvah. So it's a total of an average about 12 days. So during the Shiva Nekim it's supposed to be spotless. And there's different halachas and different chumras, some difference between Sfardim and Ashkenazim as to does it make a difference when she saw a stain, it's in the first 3 days or not. Okay, well when we get to that we'll learn that. Right now what we want to know is how will the makkah affect, it's a makkah, during the Shiva Nekim. So the Beis Yosef, the Rashba, and those that follow, of course, that she did say that even during the Shiva Nekim, she has a cheskes tahara. She's supposed to be clean right now. Doesn't have her period anymore. And therefore, most likely it's the makkah that's bringing the stain. So even though it's the Shiva Nekim that are supposed to be completely clean, no problem. And the Mordechai and others said that you can only be toile lehakel after the first 3 days. The first 3 days are more sensitive. We want to make sure that she's completely clean. So it's the first 3 days, right? First 3 days belong to the previous bloody days. And therefore, then we don't say it's the makkah. Those first 3 days need to be clean. Later on, if she sees a spot and she has a makkah, fine, but not the first 3 days. The Darkei Moshe, I believe, says that because this is a chumrah, the first 3 days, if we know for sure that makkah produces blood, that you can leave in days. But you would have to know that kind of a makkah produces blood. Question is, do you have to know if this makkah now is producing blood? I mean, not necessarily. I mean, otherwise, what's the suffix? So,
how would you know?
In other words,
I mean, it could be currently an actor speaking within this time frame,
right?
But right now the movement comes from somewhere else.
Right, exactly. So that's the question. We don't really, according to many places, you don't have to know that this makkah is producing the blood now. But this is a makkah that can produce blood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where the small difference lies in. Some require that at least I know that this is a makkah that can produce blood. I don't know if it's producing blood now. Yeah. So if this is such a makkah, then you could be lenient even during the first 3 days. And that's what the Ramah holds in Kuf Tzadik Vav. That's what he holds. The Bach and the Shach are machmir. Unless it's mamash shin. She has a real boil, a real blister in that spot. For sure is bloody all the time. And if you touch it, then okay, they grant it. But if it's not such a makkah that with blisters and the like, then they're machmir even during the first 3 days. Yeah, I think many are makel with that. It all depends on the circumstances. She's having a hard time being clean or not. Yeah. What should she do? There are ways that a woman could avoid having these problems of never chas v'shalom being able to go to the mikveh if she's by wearing colored underwear. Because if it's colored underwear, there's a certain leniency, something with stains. It's not on the white background. But B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get to that later. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about Ne'emanus. And to talk about Ne'emanus, we'll just read Sif Vav and Sif Zayin, perhaps. Then we'll talk about it. So Sif Vav says, Ne'emenes isho, lo'ima makah yesh li boto makom shadam yotze mimena. A woman can be trusted, as she is trusted b'chlal in Hilchas Niddah, in various areas. In the same way she's trusted there, she could be trusted here too. That she says, I have dam that's coming out from that place. So the man says, that it produces blood. The Ramah adds, and not everybody agrees with Ramah, I have a feeling, a strong feeling, I just know it, she says, that this dam that I'm seeing, this is not coming from the Makor. I just know it. It's so clear to me that it's coming from somewhere else. No. She says, I know, I can tell the difference. I know, I'm experienced enough, I know that this is from another spot, and as you know, there's various areas there, let's call them compartments, areas, or whatever you want to call it, and that where the blood can come from. And if a woman is so confident that she says, I know this is not from there, no, this is just another area. I mean, we're not talking about a very complicated area, because how could she know that? Is she a biologist or a doctor, or should she check herself? But somehow in the way she feels, in the way she sees where it's coming from, and how she detects it. So the Ramah says, so again we have Ne'emanos here, the question of Ne'emanos. On the question of Ne'emanos, I saw here the Pischei Tshuva bring down the Chassam Sofer, very interesting, and he says like this, I'm B'Tshuvas Chassam Sofer, the Kosav Adesu, Masha Omra Ha'im, Shemisha Shabiyadayim, Umatzo Betzdodim, Chaburus, Psoim, what others, either her mother, another woman, or her nurse, what she says, so this is another woman saying, testifying, that she found by checking blood on the sides, all kinds of bruises. You can rely on this. Why the aid echad nema lehati echad lo yischazik. One aid can be. We do accept the testimony of one aid when there's no cheskas isur. So there's no cheskas isur here. She's tahora right now, as far as we know. And women usually don't see blood during the time that it's not a veset. Okay, so you have here various possibilities. So he says here, so the whole idea of why she's nemenes is because it's just like an eid echad. There's no ischazik isura. Umekol sheken beisha sheyesh lo cheskas tahara v'roiv noshim en royes machmas tashmish. And besides, the most women in the world are not going to see blood machmas tashmish. Niddah says, "Afilu lizbarer," even to find out, and so you don't have to investigate further. And so lishol noshim acher, ask other women. Then mikol makom shemino Torah eid echad, wherever the Torah allowed testimony of one aid, harei kan shnaim. It's like you have two. And he continues on to say what I mentioned earlier too. Shegam aroife al kol ponim omar ken. Here, mikol shekin hocho, if the doctor himself is going to say that, he's going to testify. And it's possible that some women can have bruises after giving birth, as we will see later on. So he says that there's enough reason here to be makel over here. Okay. So that's as far as the ne'emanos of the woman is concerned. Not everybody agrees with this Ramah, however, that Omer is the borili she'ein dam ze bami mekor. That not, but the first part, if she says, Maka yeshli be'oisam makam, if she says, I do have a bruise, that yes. But the other one is not strong enough. Because this one is worse, it is a worse form of testimony than claiming that you have a Maka. Just that when she has a Maka, she just doesn't know if it produces blood, that's different. But to make such a statement that bodily, even the Dogomir Ravava says, I'm puzzled how the Ramah can say that. How could he determine that, even though he's quoting another posek with that? He says, that's not so clear that he wrote that. He was just perhaps being mefalpel on that. Yeah. So therefore not everybody agrees with the last statement of the Ramah that all she says is, I know it's not from there. That's not enough for her to be believed, but if she says that there's a Makkah, that yes. Alright, what about the monos of doctors? We were saying medical journals. It's mashma from the Gemara in Niddah there. It's quite clear that supposedly you can rely on the doctors. Because we see from the story there in the Gemara one incident that they eventually had to ask the doctors what they claim. The Darkei Moshe explains that Gemara is not a raya, Because from that Gemara, what you see is that you needed really two things. You needed the doctor's opinion, professional opinion, plus you needed him to check her. It wasn't just that you asked them. So a medical journal would not be sufficient in it by itself, because all of this is an opinion about a general situation. Perhaps a personal check for every case would be required. Yeah? So there would be a difference between just following medical journals, what medical science has to say, versus actually examining the woman.
As to the source or...
No, so that we said before. If a makkah produces blood or not, that's fine. That is more of a general statement. That it's not saying that this woman will for sure yes or not. They're not. In other words, we cannot rely on the medical journey to tell us what the halacha is about this woman in her personal situation. But if it's a general statement as this makkah produces blood, then yes. Yeah, that we said before. That we can rely on doctors. But as far as to judge this situation, which is not so black and white, that would require more of an investigation. Now, we still have the question of the manas of a goy. So what do we do about that? So the poskim write, at least in the Taharas Abayis. Not everybody may in agreement of this, but this is the way it works. Doctors today are much more advanced. In the past, one of the problems with relying on the doctor's testimony is that many times it was an umdana. Umdana means that it was an assumption. It was a lot of the times when they said something, it was an assumption. It was not based on concrete facts, on a proven science, and therefore they made many mistakes. So their nemanas was even though there was some nemanas to them, of course, they knew what they were talking about in general, but they were not always accurate, and therefore cannot 100% be relied on. Today, since the tools, the technology, medicine is so advanced where you have cameras going into every part of the body, there's almost very little room to make a mistake. There are still mistakes today too. There are surgeons who have left scissors inside the body. There are surgeons who've cut the wrong leg off. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the artery, they made a mistake, they went too far. All kinds of things, and of course this is all in the Shemayim. So mistakes do happen, but they do have much better tools in able to ascertain what the problem is and hopefully how to go about to correct it. And this is another important area. If they have the know-how of how to correct a problem, this will help greatly a woman who's roya dam machmas tashmish, the real thing. And that, of course, we'll see next time. Is that possible? Will it make a difference if this woman already saw 3 times? Can she now be cured? Or do we say, you better run to the doctor and do this operation or take this medication before it becomes 3 strikes and you're out? Because according to some, 3 strikes and you're out. You can't, how do you say take it back? You can't go back and start all over again. So that we will see next time. Is it possible to determine with some degree of certainty that a woman has fully recovered through a medical process? If yes, yes, but we'll see how. That's the topic of next time. But for now, the Taaruvot Abayis tells us that these goyim or Jews who are mechalel Shabbos, which is pretty much the same thing, we would be able to rely on them if they give us a professional opinion as to what's going on, only because they have better tools. Plus, many times what they say eventually can be proven or disproven. And we have a cloud that anything that is a milsa davida legluye, anything that eventually can become exposed or revealed, the doctor is not going to lie about it. The expert will not lie about it. So therefore, if he's not going to lie about it, the goy or the mechal Shabbos would be equal as far as nemanas in this kind of a situation. So this kind of a situation where there's a good chance that we can find out from other medical experts, other opinions, or somehow, with time, we will see this is true or not. He wouldn't want to ruin his reputation or lie. Why should he lie? I mean, he may not know, he may be ignorant, yes, but hopefully why?
No, but he's an expert.
The fact he's an expert and working, and earning a very high salary. Hopefully he knows what he's talking about. So there's no reason to believe that he's lying. The only question is, does he really also have the ability to ascertain? And the answer is apparently, Taras Abaye says, that in our days, with all the specialized tools, it may be possible for them to see the bruise and the blood and everything, where it is exactly.
Wouldn't that depend upon what he had he's actually utilized?
What?
We're simply relying upon
Yeah.
the doctor.
Right.
The doctor, are we saying then that he has to rely upon this, or is it the techniques?
Yes.
Or simply no.
We would require it. We would require it. Yeah, that's what we were saying before. The Darchei Moshe, I think, says that that was the Darchei Moshe that says that just the doctor himself, it's not a riot, and even though it appears that others will accept a doctor's opinion, it appears that we may need an examination too. So I believe that's what we do today, especially in Yore Deah Machmas. You want to be sure it doesn't happen again. So it's a much more delicate situation. You would definitely require such a bdika. And or taking the medication that supposedly is supposed to work wonders. Okay? Time will tell.
How about a kamea?
Yeah, maybe just to be on the safe side, do that too. But you couldn't rely on that.
No, the word does speak about the laws.
Of kameas, They do apply, but for Hilchos Shabbos maybe. Can you wear it and all these kinds of things. I don't think for this.
It's interesting.
I don't know.
For Hilchos Shabbos, it's dafka because
very straight, sure. Yeah. Anyway, just a quick last halacha, Sif Zainim. Kol zman shi bodekes b'chol ha'chorim v'sdokim. If this woman, all the time that she checks everywhere, every nook and cranny, as they say, ena motzes ksamim, she never finds any stain skin. B'mokom echad b'tzdadim. She only finds it in one particular spot on the side. Yesh litlo shebemaka sheboisu tzad bo. Then that can help you make that determination that it is from a makkah from that side. So we've eliminated a lot of the questions now, and a lot of this fake is that it's not only a makkah, it's a makkah coming from that side. The more so when she touches that spot, it hurts her, it's painful, it's sore. And anytime she touches the other side, there's nothing going on there. It's not sore, it's not painful. Then she can for sure suppose that the blood that it was coming was from that makkah, from that particular spot. And then, of course, there's no sfeikas here left. In other words, that will facilitate the whole resolution here of her problem. Where is this coming from? That has pretty much narrowed it down. So if this is a woman who always checks, and somehow, whenever she checks, she always sees in that particular spot, when she touches it, especially if she feels it sore. But even if it's not sore, she's always seeing her cloth becoming stained from that spot. That helps narrow down the problem over here. That most likely it's not only from a makkah, it's a makkah coming from the side. Okay, so Mitzvah Hashem will continue next week.